Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Vicky Lemons here, and if you are new, welcome, and if you are returning, welcome back. I am so glad to have you here. So in this video, we're going to talk about how sometimes stay-at-home moms resent the fact that they stayed home or that they're staying home. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, about 11 years, strictly stay-at-home mom, and some people still think I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I consider myself now more a woman of leisure. I'm going to do a different video describing what a woman of leisure is versus a stay-at-home mom. In this video, I'm more focused on talking about just really the resentment behind being a stay-at-home mother. Why do women resent being a stay-at-home mom? So we're going to get into that right now. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why women resent being stay-at-home mothers, and I'm going to go from 10 to 1 being the top reason that I feel women resent being a stay-at-home mom. As I said, I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. I'm now a woman of leisure, but I understand the resentment part of it. I went through it myself, so I feel qualified to have this conversation. So number 10 is they felt pressured to do so. They felt pressured to become a stay-at-home mom. And being a stay-at-home mom is not for everyone. And it's not something that you should feel pressured into doing. And if you feel pressured into doing it, you might not want to do it. And I say that because it's a very selfless job. You really put everything and everyone else before yourself. And feeling pressured to take care of your children, that doesn't even go together, right? You should be thankful and proud and happy to take care of your children. But everyone doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. And sometimes women feel pressured into being that person. Nowadays, more men are being stay-at-home dads, but for the most part, that title, stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home parent, usually reflects on the woman having to, give her life to raising her children or raising the children that she and her husband had. So that's number 10 is they felt pressured into doing so, and it's not what's really in their heart, and they have created resentment around that. Number 9. An unequal distribution of the chores. Stay-at-home moms get confused with being the maid, the cook, the therapist, everything under the sun. When in all actuality, you're a stay-at-home mom, so your job is really just to make sure your children are taken care of. You could have someone cater your house, a chef cater for you. You can have a housekeeper and still be a stay-at-home mom, because all those extra duties are not your job. They're just skills that you may or may not have. And there's nothing wrong with outsourcing that part of your job. The thing is, most people can't afford to do that. So unfortunately, the husband or spouse that's out, we're talking about stay-at-home mom, so we're going to reference the father being the one out providing. So the father that's out and, making money to pay the bills and to support his family, he comes home from work, he's tired. But you've been at work all day too, but you're tired. But your work doesn't look like their work. And so they don't want to come home and clean. But you've been cooking and cleaning all day. You don't want to do that the rest of the day either. So I think that husbands should understand that the housework and the cooking is not part of the stay-at-home mother's job. The children are, and the husband is to provide. So if that means her mental load is lessened by having someone prep up food for the week for you guys or clean your toilets every week, that's something that should be provided. That is not the job of the stay-at-home mother if she doesn't want it to be. And when she doesn't allow herself the opportunity to have that choice, she builds up resentment because she is stuck doing most of the work around the house and it's not equally distributed. And that's not fair, which builds up resentment. So an unequal distribution of chores around the home is definitely on the list, because it definitely makes stay-at-home moms feel that they aren't appreciated and just being taken for granted. So that's number 9. Number 8, no control over their life choices. At the end of the day, when you become a stay-at-home mom, you have to give you up, in a sense. You do not focus on you in the slightest way that you focus on other people, especially the people you're caring for. And you can feel like you have no control over your life choices. You feel very stuck sometimes. And this can cause a lot of resentment. You feel your only life choices are whatever choices need to happen for your children or for your spouse. And that can make you feel like, what about me? What about my life? Because what happens is we get lost in being called mom all day, and then your wife, part of the day. But what about you? Like your name? What about Vicky? What does Vicky's life look like, right? So that's one thing that also causes a lot of resentment from stay-at-home moms, is that they feel like they have lost control over their life, not their life as mom, not their life as wife, their life as them, who they are. They don't even know who they are half the time. Internally. That makes sense. Okay. Number 7, they gave up their career. They gave up their career, the thing they loved, the thing they wanted to do, the thing that they gravitated to. They gave it up for the betterment of the family. And initially that can seem okay, but resentment can form when that thing you loved to do so much is no longer attainable because you've been home for so long and you've lost the skill, or the technology has changed and you just have no clue how to get yourself back into the swing of things. Then you resent. You feel so much resentment for the time you spent doing all these other things for everyone else and you didn't do it for yourself. So number 7, they gave up their career, and they gave up their career not knowing how detrimental it was going to be to their mental health, to the development of them inside, like their spiritual self. They gave up their career for what they thought was the better thing to do. And this can cause resentment if that void is never filled again. Stay-at-home moms can have resentment for having to give up their careers. Number 6, feeling unappreciated. I have had to have this conversation with my family. It is one that I think every stay-at-home mom should have with their family. And it's just about appreciation. Nothing I do or nothing I did is out of me having to do it. I did it out of wanting to. I wanted to make my home clean. I wanted to take care of my children to the level that I do and did. I wanted to be this magnificent wife, but I also want to be appreciated. I want to see that my efforts are not in vain. I want to hear, thank you. Thank you for putting the effort into that. Thank you for cleaning that. Thank you for making the bed. Feeling appreciated. My family is great in that now, after the conversations we've had to have, but it's okay to have conversation, right? Because you have to let people know how you feel, set boundaries, and say, hey, when I did this, you could have said thank you. It would have been the nice thing to do to show some appreciation. I would appreciate next time I make up the bed, you say thank you, babe. Or, you know what, babe, I got it. You did it yesterday. I'm going to do it today. Showing some appreciation. A lot of times stay-at-home moms feel resentful because they don't feel appreciated. Number 5, limited personal growth. Meaning you don't push yourself to do anything else other than the things that are going on inside the home. And I did not do this, but I also didn't not do it to the extent that I should have done it, if that makes sense. It's important to have goals. As a stay-at-home mom, it's important to have goals, and it's important to continue to work on you. I've always done college classes. I've used to teach fitness classes. I always had to do something that was just for me. Even if I had to take my children to the gym while I taught my classes, even if I could only go to school on certain times because, you know, so my husband could watch the kids, I always made sure I was doing something for me, because if not, I would not feel like I was growing as an individual, not as mom, not as wife, as Vicky. And, you know, writing my books, illustrating all my books, just everything I do, creating my journals, creating my apparel that I have, just everything I do, those are things for Vicky. And you can absolutely limit your growth if you don't make an effort to enhancing it. It's not going to just come overnight. Take some cooking classes, you know, take some sewing lessons, whatever it is you like, pottery. Do something that will allow you to have some growth in an area that is important to you. For me, that area is creativity. You know, I'm very good with my hands. I like to create things. I like to have a vision in my head of something and then bring it to life. That's just kind of what I like to do. So that's what I focus on. But you have to get focused on something that makes you feel like you are growing personally, because you will absolutely feel like you have no growth happening with you if you don't focus on it. So number 5 is limited personal growth. Stay-at-home moms feel resentment when they cannot have like a consistent personal growth, when they have just completely immersed themselves into their family and into their spouse, and they don't focus anything on themselves to help them grow so that they can have opportunities in the future for themselves. So number 4, stay-at-home moms can get resentment for just the everyday mundane cycle of everything. Unfortunately, that is something that doesn't really change unless your children's schedules change. You will have to do the same things over and over and over again. But this is because this is how we teach our kids structure. But for an adult, it becomes mundane. And it can be frustrating because you feel as though you are almost like that movie Groundhog Day. It's just the same thing every day. And that is enough to drive someone crazy and make them resent their life choices. And that's not what we want to do when we are a stay-at-home mom. We do want to find pockets of moments where we can change things up a little bit and make it as interesting as possible. Some days you're not going to be able to do that. It's just going to be what it is. But on the days where you can do that, I would suggest finding some little pockets of areas that you can switch things up a little bit. That way everything isn't so mundane all the time. But stay-at-home moms definitely feel resentment when they feel like they're doing the same things over and over and over again. Number 3, lack of adult interaction. Well, when my children were small, we lived on military installations a lot. So, or even if we didn't, they went to school on military installations. So I was always around other wives. It's tricky when your kids are small because you tend to want to hang out with other people who have small children. When you're home all day with your children, you definitely, especially when your kids are small, you definitely miss out on adult interaction. And there was this commercial a long time ago where the husband would come home and the wife was out. The wife was home with the children all day, and when the husband came home, she would talk to him like a baby. And it was so funny to me because she didn't have any adult interaction throughout the day. And even something so small as going to the store by yourself and just talking to the clerk, that in itself is refreshing when you've been, you know, mediating tantrums all day and cooking and cleaning, and it just becomes too much, right? So having a little bit of adult interaction is nice. And this is a resentment that stay-at-home moms can sometimes have resentment for not having any adult interaction. However, when my children were small and my husband would be gone all day, I would definitely miss hanging out with people. And even now when he leaves, I miss adulting with him, not necessarily with other people, but I still feel that feeling sometimes of how it feels to be alone. You're basically alone. You have no adult interaction once your spouse leaves. You have to change that and make some friends somehow, because that will lead to resentment. So number 3, lack of adult interaction is a big one, because it makes you feel isolated and it makes you feel alone. And that's not what we want when, you know, we are raising our children to have healthy minds and things like that. We don't want it to come from a place where we feel so much resentment. Number 2, financial strain. It is not easy to live off of one person's income. My husband and I have been doing that solely for about 3 years now. And before that 3 years, we did a real estate business for about 3 years that I worked with. And then before that, it was just little part-time teaching fitness classes here and there. So I pretty much was still a stay-at-home mom. So pretty much in the last, I've been married 24 years. So in the last 20, so I'm going to say in the last, my son is 17. I'm going to say in the last 17 years, I've worked about 3.5 of those. And this is what I'm going to say about finances. If you want it to work, it'll work. Yes, that means you won't be able to do some things. Yes, that means you won't be able to buy some things at that moment, right? But when you really think about it, your children are only small for so long. So it's a blessing to be able to just sacrifice the finances at the moment for the betterment of the children. Now, I get how some couples can feel like that's a toxic thing. Like, I don't want to have to ask for money. That's conversation that you and your partner discuss before you have children. You say, what are we expecting to do when we have children? Are you going to stay home? Am I going to stay home? Are we going to, how are we going to save now? Are we going to, you know, how are we going to do our finances? Am I going to have a stipend? Do I just get what I want when I need? Like, do I just get what I need when I want it? What are we going to do? What my husband and I do, we sit down on the 1st of every month and we pay all of our bills. We sit down and we pay all our bills. And then we both know what's left, and we put some into our savings and however we need to distribute for that. And we also put money aside for like date night, you know, groceries, things like that. So we both know what's in all accounts at all times. And for us, this works. This is not how we've always done our finances. This is how it works for us now. When we first got married, we didn't do our finances like this because I wasn't a stay-at-home mom. I worked a full-time job. He worked a full-time job. We had our first child after we had been married 7 years. So for a long time. But once we did have our children, it slowly changed over the years to meet whatever needs we needed it to meet for that period of our marriage. In this phase of our marriage, for the last about 4 years, we've been paying our bills every first of the month. And that is what works out for us right now. And so that's what we will continue to do. And when I want something, I get it. I know what we have. I know what we need to save money for. So I'm going to be responsible and not use that money, right? So it's all about finances. But I can see how stay-at-home moms would resent their spouse if their spouse makes them feel like they're controlling them with the money. And that's not what we want. So if you don't want your spouse to feel resentment around financial reasons of being a stay-at-home mom, then don't try to control them with the money. Both of you have to be respectful and responsible with the finances, and that's just what it is. And the number one reason that I feel stay-at-home mothers resent being a stay-at-home mom: loss of independence. Basically from number 10 up to number 2. All that is gone. You lose out on so much when it comes to you because your focus is not on you. Your focus is on your children and your husband. And that will make someone resent their situation very, very fast. I even went through a point where I was very resentful toward my husband because here I was, 40 years old at the time. I'm 44 now, but when I was about 40, I'm 40 years old. I put all this attention and love and nurturing into our family. I did not do the same thing for myself. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward with my life? And what am I going to do with myself? And I don't even know what I want to be. And I don't even know who. I went through all this because I had a lack of independence. I was so hyper focused on being the best mother, being the best wife, that I was not focused on me. I wasn't focused on me. And so for the last few years, that's just what I've been focusing on: myself, building up my businesses, my brands, being nurturing and kind and empowering to myself. I've been doing that for myself. So the number one reason I feel stay-at-home moms resent being stay-at-home moms is because they feel as though they lose their independence. It makes them feel like a child. It makes them feel less than. It makes them feel like they have no identity. And that's a hard feeling to feel, number one. And it's also kind of degrading in a sense in your mind because you feel less than. You feel like you lack. And it makes you resent your partner. It makes you resent all the years you spent being a mom. It makes you resent all the years you spent having to give up you and not work on you. But here's the thing I learned when I was coming out of my resentment of feeling like lack of independence. Here's the thing that I learned. I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and wife. And I became a stay-at-home mom and wife. So I needed to learn to accept that no one stopped me from achieving my goals. I was just so focused on doing those two things. I wasn't focusing on me, and that was my fault. That was not my husband's fault. That was not my children's fault. That was my fault. Because what I could have been doing, I didn't do. And now that I'm not as young as I used to be, now I'm resentful. I was resentful because, you don't feel like time is on your side anymore. However, that is something that you 100% can change. If I could go back and do it again, I would take this list. I would work on myself. I would create a structure around a schedule with my kids around things that I like to do as well. Like I would incorporate me into the picture more often. And that's what I'm going to leave you with this video. For my stay-at-home moms out there, if you're resenting being a stay-at-home mom, don't resent being a stay-at-home mom. Right now, what you're going to do is you're going to start doing things for you. You are going to start taking your schedule and analyzing it. And where can you plug in things for you? Go to the library and read a book. Go to the coffee shop and whatever it is for you, you need to go out and do it. It is not your husband's fault if you don't do it. It is not your children's fault. You have to put you first, no matter what. And that's where I am right now, and that's why I have graduated into being now a woman of leisure. And we will talk about that in the next video. But as always, I thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and God bless.
With God on my side, nothing will stop me. No devil is old on me.